Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's edition of the Daf Yomi. Today, Makkos Daf Masechet Makkos Daf 10 Amud B. So just carry on from the last Amud. The mission teaches and roads were aligned for them from this city to that city. This is talking about the cities of refuge, the Ari Michlot. It is taught in a brayta that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, refuge was written. Midlas Hayakosov. The term refuge was written at the crossroads, directing the unintentional murderers to the city of refuge. And according to the statement of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Rambam Sefer Nezikin Hilchot Duseich Ushmirat HaNefes 8.5. Refuge was written on the signs at every crossroads, marking the path to the city of refuge, so that the unintentional murderer would identify the route to the city of refuge and turn to go there. Rav Kahana said, what is the verse from which this is derived? Prepare for you the road, Deuteronomy 19:3, meaning perform for you the preparation of the road. Apropos that halacha, the Gemara cites of Rav Hama bar Hanina introduces portion with regard to the halachot of exile with the introduction from here. Pasachla Pischa. It was customary that sages of the Talmud would introduce a sermon with regard to the particular portion in the Torah with a verse from the prophets or writings, which he would interpret in a manner that connected it to the portion in question. There are many examples of Aggadic Midrash that are similarly structured. From here, good and upright is God, and therefore he directs sinners along the way. In Psalm 25:8, he said, if he directs sinners by commanding the placing of signs directing the city of refuge, it may be inferred a fortiori that he will assist and direct the righteous along the path of righteousness. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish introduced this portion with an introduction from here, and it is stated with regard to an unintentional murderer, and one who did not lie in wait, but God caused it to come to his hand, and I will appoint you a place where he may flee in Exodus 21:13. Now this is puzzling. Why would God cause one to sin in this manner? The verse states, as the ancient parable says, from the wicked comes forth wickedness. In 1 Samuel 24:13, evil incidents before those who have already sinned. So what's a footnote? Kasha Omer Mashuk HaKadmoni. As the ancient parable says, Rashi explains that the ancient parable is referring to the Torah, which contains the words of God, who preceded the world. Reish Lakish explains that the meaning of the verse in the Torah, but God caused it to come to his hand, parallels the parable, from the wicked comes forth wickedness. Reish Lakish explains, in this light, the verse, but God caused it to come to his hand, may be understood with regard to what scenario is this verse speaking. It's with regard to two people who killed a person. One had killed unintentionally, while the other killed intentionally. For this person, there was no witnesses to his action, and for that person, there were no witnesses to his action. Therefore, neither received the appropriate punishment of exile and execution respectively. The Holy One, blessed be He, summons them to one inn. This person who killed intentionally sits beneath a ladder, and that person who killed unintentionally descends the ladder and falls upon him and kills him. There were witnesses to that event, to that incident, and therefore that person who killed intentionally is killed, and that person who killed unintentionally is exiled, each receiving what he deserved. Apropos the path upon which God leads people, the Gemara cites a statement of Rabbi Rav Huna says that Rav Huna says, and sometimes a statement that Rav Huna says that Rabbi Elazar says, from the Torah, from the prophets, and from the writings, one learns that along the path a person wishes to proceed, one leads and assists him. Every person has the ability to choose whether to become a righteous person or a wicked person. Rambam Sefer Mother Hilchot Teshuvah 5:1, see chapter 6 there. One learns this from the Torah, as it is written that initially God said to Balaam, with regard to the continued dispatch by Balak, you shall not go with them. Numbers 22:12. After Balaam implored him and indicated his desire to go with him, it is written, arise, go with him. Numbers 22:20. One learns this from the prophets, as it is written, I am the Lord your God who teaches you for your prophet, who leads you on the path that you go, as Isaiah 48:17, indicating, and along the path one seeks to go, God will direct him. One learns from this from the writings, as it is written, if one seeks the cynics, he will cause them to join the cynics, but to the humble he will give grace. In Proverbs 3:34, indicating that if one chooses cynicism, God will direct him there, and if he opts for humility, God will grant him peace. The Gemara resumes its discussion of the halachot of exile. Rav Huna says, In the case of unintentional murderer who was exiled to a city of refuge and the blood redeemer found him, if an unintentional murder was discovered by a blood redeemer and killed outside a city of refuge, the blood redeemer is exempt from liability for murder, whether he found him before he entered the city of refuge or after he returned with the Torah scholars accompanying him. In accordance to the statement of Rambam Sefer Nefesh 5:9, on the one killed him, he's exempt. The Gemara knows, Rav Huna holds that the verse, lest the blood redeemer pursue the murderer and strike him fatally, and for him there is no sentence of death, as he did not hate him from before, in Deuteronomy 19:6. It is written with regard to the blood redeemer, teaching that the blood redeemer is not liable to be executed for killing the murderer. The Gemara raises an objection to the opinion of Rav Huna from a Braita, and for him there is no sentence of death. The verse is speaking with regard to the unintentional murderer, teaching that the unintentional murderer is not liable to be executed. This is why the Jewish people command to establish a city of refuge to protect them. The Braita proceeds to prove that the verse is written with regard to the murderer. Do you say it is speaking with regard to the unintentional murderer, or is it speaking only with regard to the blood redeemer? When it states in an earlier verse, and he did not hate him from before, Deuteronomy 19:4, it is clear that the reference is to the unintentional murderer, and therefore you must say in the phrase, and for him there is no sentence of death. The verse is speaking with regard to the unintentional murderer. The Gemara answers, I'm going to say his opinion according to the opinion of that of the following Tana, as it is taught in another Braita. And for him there is no sentence of death. The verse is speaking with regard to the blood redeemer. The Braita clarifies, do you say that it is speaking with regard to the blood redeemer, or is it speaking only with regard to the unintentional murderer? When it states, as he did not hate him from before, the unintentional murderer is already stated, as that phrase certainly is referring to him. How do I realize the meaning of the verse? And for him there is no sentence of death. It is with regard to the blood redeemer that the verse is speaking. The Gemara cites proof concerning Rav Huna's ruling from the Mishnah. We learned in the Mishnah, and they would provide the unintentional murderer fleeing to a city of refuge with 2 Torah scholars, due to the concern that perhaps the blood redeemer will seek to kill him in transit, and in that case they will talk to the blood redeemer. The Gemara asks, what, is it not that the Torah scholars forewarn him that if he kills the unintentional murderer he will be liable to be executed? The context of Huna's opinion that the blood redeemer who kills the unintentional murderer is exempt. The Gemara rejects this proof. No. The statement of the Torah scholars to the blood redeemer can be explained as is taught in a Braita, and they will speak to him about matters. The court provides one sentence to exile with 2 Torah scholars to accompany him to the city of refuge. They say to the blood redeemer, do not accord him treatment appropriate for murderers, as he came to be involved in the incident unintentionally. 5:7. Appropriate to him. They say to the blood redeemer, do not accord. In other words, try to persuade the blood redeemer not to kill the unintentional murderer. Treatment appropriate for murderers, as it was unintentionally that he came to be involved in the incident. Rabbi Meir says, the unintentional murderer too speaks Medaber on his own behalf to dissuade the blood redeemer, as is stated, and this is the matter dava of the murderer, who shall flee there and live. Deuteronomy 19:4. Indicating the murderer himself apologizes and speaks to the blood redeemer. The sages said to Rabbi Meir, many matters are performed more respectfully through agency. The Gemara analyzes the Braita. The master says in the Braita, it was unintentionally that he came to be involved in the incident. The Gemara asks, isn't this obvious? As if it were intentionally that he killed a person, is he liable to be executed? The Gemara answers yes. Even intentional murderers flee to a city of refuge on occasion. The Gemara continues, and so is taught in a Braita. Rabbi Yossi, son of Rabbi Yehuda, says initially either one who killed another unintentionally or one who killed another intentionally would hurry and flee to cities of refuge, and the court in the city would send for him to bring him from there to stand trial. The Braita continues, with regard to one who is found liable to receive the death penalty for intentional murder. After the trial, the court would execute him, as it is stated, and the elders of the city shall send and take him from there and deliver him into the hand of the blood redeemer, and he shall die. Deuteronomy 19:12. And with regard to one who was not found liable to receive the death penalty, e.g., if they deemed that it was due to circumstances beyond his control, they freed him, as it is stated, and the congregation shall rescue the murderer from the hand of the blood redeemer, in Numbers 35:25. With regard to one who was found liable to be exiled, the court would restore him to his place in the city of refuge, as is stated, and the congregation shall judge between the murderer and the blood redeemer, and the congregation shall restore him to a city of refuge, that he fled there. In Numbers 35:24 to 25, the Bible continues. Rabbi Nasi says, the Torah does not command intentional murderers to flee to a city of refuge. Rather, the Torah is cognizant of the fact that in practice, intentional murderers would exile themselves on their own, as they thought that they would be admitted to these cities, which would provide refuge for both unintentional and intentional murderers, and they did not know that only those who murder unintentionally are admitted to these cities, but those who murder intentionally are not admitted. Rabbi Elazar says, an unintentional murderer is not admitted to a city of refuge, whose majority consists of unintentional murderers. An unintentional murderer is not admitted to a city, the majority of whose population consists of unwitting murderers, according to the statement of Rabbi Elazar. That's the Rambam Sefer Nezikin, 7:6. As it says with regard to an unintentional murderer who fled to a city of refuge, and he shall speak his matters in the ears of the elders of that city, in Joshua 24, indicating that there is some novel element in the matters that he seeks to convey to the elders of the town, but not when their matters are equal to his matters. As those elders made the same statements when they arrived at the city of refuge as unintentional murderers. And Rabbi Elazar says, an unintentional murderer is not admitted to a city in which there are no elders. An unintentional murderer is not admitted to a city in which there are no elders, in accordance to the statement of Rabbi Elazar, Rambam Sefer Nezikin, 7:6. As we require the fulfillment of the verse, and he shall speak in the ears of the elders of the city, in Joshua 24, and there are none. It was stated, in a city where there are no elders, the subject of a dispute between Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi. One says an unintentional murderer is admitted there, and one says an unintentional murderer is not admitted there. The Gemara explains, according to the one who says that an unintentional murderer is not admitted to a city in which there are no elders, his reasoning due to the fact that we require the presence of the elders of the city and there are none. According to the one who says that an unintentional murderer is admitted there, his reasoning is that he holds that speaking to the elders is merely a mitzvah ab initio, but it does not affect the city status as a city of refuge. And a city in which there are no elders is the subject of another dispute between Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi. One says one can become a wayward and rebellious son in it, and one says one cannot become a wayward and rebellious son in it. The Gemara explains, according to the one who says that one cannot become a wayward and rebellious son in it, it is due to the fact that we require the presence of elders of the city, as it is written, and his father and mother shall take hold of him and bring him out to the elders of his city, and the gate of his place, Deuteronomy 21:19, and there are none. According to the one who says that one can become a wayward and rebellious son in it, the presence of elders is merely a mitzvah ab initio, and the city in which there are no elders is the subject of another dispute between Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Asi. One says, if a corpse was discovered proximate to that city, the inhabitants of the city bring a heifer whose neck is broken. Egla Arufa. Heifer whose neck is broken. The mitzvah of the heifer whose neck is broken is stated in the Torah in Deuteronomy 21:1 to 9. When a murder victim is found outside a town, and it is known who killed him, the elders of the town nearest the corpse must bring a heifer which has not been worked and has not drawn a yoke. Deuteronomy 21:3. The heifer is taken to an untilled riverbed where the elders must break his neck. They then wash their hands and recite the statement absolving themselves of the guilt for the death, expected to derive benefit from the heifer even after its neck has been broken. And one says the inhabitants of the city do not bring a heifer whose neck is broken. The Gemara explains, according to the one who says that the inhabitants of the city do not bring a heifer whose neck is broken, it's due to the fact that we require the presence of the elders of the city, as it is written, and the elders of that city shall bring the calf down to a rough valley, Deuteronomy 21:4, and there are no elders. According to the one who says that the inhabitants of the city bring a heifer whose neck is broken, the presence of the elders is merely a mitzvah ab initio. Rav Hama bar Chanina says, for what reason was the portion discussing murder stated? Thank you for listening and all the best. Bye.